Hello everyone, it's Charlton. Please subscribe to my channel, tap the notification bell. I would appreciate it majorly. So the the family of George Floyd, the pathologist that they hired to do their own independent autopsy has put out the results for that. They already performed the autopsy, and it's done by Dr. Michael Bowden, which many people know. He's basically a celebrity pathologist. I believe he's a paid contributor on Fox presently, and has been for some time. And he's the guy who did the autopsy of Jeffrey Epstein. And I wasn't aware that he also did Eric Garner's autopsy, which was a case that was very similar to this one, where he couldn't breathe and so forth. So, but they've put out at least the preliminary results, and they do differ quite dramatically from what the Hennepin County, Minneapolis medical examiner put. And they put those preliminary results. I don't think they've put out a final report yet, a complete report, in the arrest report of Derek Chauvin. I don't know if that's typical. I don't know if that's what they normally do, or if they just did that in this case because they wanted to put out something, but they did. In Derek Chauvin's, at the end of his arrest report, they basically said what their findings were, a preliminary, and there's to paraphrase, and it's only a few sentences anyways, and I'll read from it probably to compare it to Dr. Michael Bowden's conclusions, was that he didn't die of traumatic asphyxia or strangulation, meaning he didn't die because he couldn't breathe, and that it was from his underlying heart conditions, two different ones, and potential intoxicants that might have been in his body. But Dr. Michael Bowden's autopsy, who were hired by the family and the attorneys that they have representing them, George Floyd's family, basically almost the opposite of that. And they do say, initially I was a little confused from what was put out there, that basically they said that it was as a result of the force on the back of his neck, prevented proper blood flow to his brain, which basically killed him. But but also that that he was where he was unable to his diaphragm was unable to take in a breath because of the force on him, in addition to that. And I'm beginning to kind of possibly piece together what may have actually happened, and I can almost believe the autopsy results from Dr. Michael Bowden, and I'll explain that if I understand it correctly, what might have actually happened. But and I saw another article, I didn't bring it up here, about actually with the Minneapolis Police Department. It was some report that basically showed that a considerable proportion of people who had that method of detention used on them when the officer was trying to subdue a prisoner by putting the knee on the back of the neck, which I think is, I wouldn't say fairly common, but I've seen it done, in other arrests that were caught on video. But in a number of those cases, like 16%, I think, the person went unconscious. I can't, if I can get it up here as quickly as possible, that would be nice. Okay. In that case, it was Minneapolis police rendered 44 people unconscious with neck restraints in 5 years. I don't know what 44 people was. 16% is what I said. So in 16% of the incidents, the suspect or other individuals lost consciousness. Minneapolis police used neck restraints at least 237 times during that span. I think they're talking about a 5-year span. Since the beginning of 2015, officers from the Minneapolis Police Department have rendered people unconscious with neck restraints 44 times. And that's out of 237 times that they used. I don't know how they know these things, but that comes to 16% of the incidents. The suspects or other individuals lost consciousness, the department's use of force records show. So 16% out of people that method was used on went unconscious, and presumably that's because of preventing blood flow to the brain. That's normally what happens. When you do that, especially when you do it from the front. In front, it happens right away. But if you do it from the back with enough force, it apparently does the same thing. It eventually puts enough strain, enough force on, on the back of the neck that prevents the blood flow to the brain. So the findings of Dr. Michael Bowden, it says an independent autopsy ordered by George Floyd's family found his homicide was caused by asphyxia due to neck and back compression that led to lack of blood flow to the brain, according to the early findings from the examination released Monday. So this is similar to the preliminary findings. That's not the similar conclusion, but they're just preliminary findings. The final analysis, I don't think is complete. I think they're still doing it, but this is, what they're putting out for now. Again, let me repeat, the homicide was caused, and this is Dr. Michael Bowden, homicide was caused by asphyxia due to neck and back compression that led to lack of blood flow to the brain, according to early findings from the examination released Monday. The independent examiners found that weight on the back, handcuffs, and positioning were contributory factors because they impaired the ability of Floyd's diaphragm to function, according to the report. Dr. Michael Bowden in the University of Michigan's Medical School's Director of Autopsy and Forensic Services, Dr. Alicia Wilson, handled the examination, according to the family attorney, Ben Crump. So, that's obviously very different because they're saying he died of asphyxia because of, one, it led to lack of blood flow to the brain from the force due to the neck and back compression from the knee on the neck, and also that the weight on the back, handcuffs, and positioning were contributory factors because they impaired the ability of Floyd's diaphragm to function, which is basically, underneath your lungs, the muscle that opens and closes your chest to when you're breathing. And, almost like I think when you get punched in the middle of your stomach, right beneath your rib cage, that's like when you get punched in the solar plexus, that's like when you get the wind knocked out of you, or you fall on the ground and hit yourself right in the middle of your stomach. And that's your diaphragm that gets hit, I believe, when that happens. So that differs considerably to the medical examiner from Hennepin County that basically said the Hennepin County medical examiner conducted Mr. Floyd's autopsy on May 26, 2020. The full report of the medical examiner, is pending, but the ME has made the following preliminary findings. The autopsy revealed no physical findings that support a diagnosis of traumatic asphyxia or strangulation. Mr. Floyd had underlying health conditions, including coronary artery disease, hypertensive heart disease, the combined effects of Mr. Floyd being restrained by police, his underlying health conditions, and any potential intoxicants in his system likely contributed to his death. Okay, so that's saying it's due to his heart conditions, coronary heart disease, coronary artery disease, and hypertensive heart disease, as well as the combined effects of Mr. Floyd being restrained by police and his underlying health conditions, and any potential intoxicants, like drugs. What I think happened, and it's as I was reading this, and because initially the medical examiner, Dr. Bowden, and the other doctor, Dr. Alicia from Michigan Medical School, their conclusions were two different conclusions. Basically, the lack of blood flow to the brain because of the neck and back compression from the knee to the neck, and the impaired ability of Floyd's diaphragm. And those are two different kind of conclusions, but they're actually, I think they're actually, what I think happened, it's one after the other. Is you basically, and literally it's dawning on me that it's very possible that the knee to the neck led to lack of blood flow that made him go unconscious. And then once he went unconscious, he no longer had the strength to hold them up and, up off the top of him in order to keep himself in a position to be able to breathe. And so basically once he went unconscious, his all his strength is gone, and he wouldn't have been able to take breaths like he was previously when he was basically struggling to, fight for breath. And I think that that's actually maybe a reasonable conclusion on the part of the family's medical examiners, or the pathologist, Dr. Bowden and Dr. Alicia Wilson. And that's pretty much the story there. And really, You know, because initially the two different conclusions, the lack of blood flow due to neck and back compression is one thing, and the impaired ability for Floyd's diaphragm to function is another thing. But I think what I just said is maybe what it is. You know, is you had him go unconscious because of the lack of blood flow to the brain from the knee on the neck, and then once he was unconscious, he didn't have the strength to hold the men up off of him, particularly the person who was right on top of his back, Derek Chauvin, to take breath anymore, and then he just died. He suffocated. And that's the story there, man. Thanks for watching my videos. Please subscribe to my channel. Give me a like down below. I'll see you in the next video. Later, man.